Hello, welcome to another edition of From the Bars to the Bricks. My name's Kevin. How you doing today, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow ex-cons? Uh, I can't complain. I'm free. I'm not in prison. I actually ate a real meal today, not mystery meat or mystery concoction. But I don't know. I don't even want to solve the mystery. I might be scared to know what I've eaten over the years. But anyway, today's episode is going to be extremely controversial, I'm sure. However, these are stories that need to be told, and people need to know about. People need to know about the truth. Today, I'm going to be talking about two gentlemen in particular. Maybe more to come in the future, but you know. Anyway, these two gentlemen that are innocent, and they're serving time, a lot of time, and I'll get into those two cases later. There's a bunch of people in prison who claim that they're innocent. Many of them aren't. A lot of times, especially depending upon the crime, you can tell from their attitudes, their behaviors, the way they carry themselves, the things they say, especially when they think no one's listening, the way they act, it just. Anyway, however, these two gentlemen, in my opinion, and I have a good, excuse my French, a bullshit crap detector. I'm trying to refrain from cussing on this channel, but but anyway. So if you're one that is just convinced that our governments of whatever capacity, whether it be a DA or whatever, are perfect, don't have personal vendettas, feelings, on personal missions, probably in the video for you. Because I'm about to disclose some stuff. It's really going to blow your mind. Anyway, it's kind of rough to talk about. It's a really sad situation. One of the cases in particular. Both guys I'm very good friends with, I would say. In fact, one of them is probably, I would even say, one of my best friends. I still talk to, well, actually both of them to this day, but, anyway, without further ado, let's move on. So, like I said, I believe the government's just all perfect. Probably shouldn't watch. If you're one that's just wants to hear the truth, if you're so close-minded that you completely believe what the media sends out, what the media presents, well, this sure isn't the video for you. Like Trump or hate Trump, I'm not voicing an opinion either way. He said fake news. It's a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. If you've ever been on the other side of the law and been involved as part of a news story, then you would know. They treat news stories like movies. Sometimes, like you see that movie based on a true story. Some facts change to make it, more interesting, whatever they say, however. But media does it too. But anyway, and just a precursor and a warning, I am going to put an age of 18 on this video, because one of the gentlemen I'm going to talk about has a fairly recent case, last 3 years. Anybody who's from the Wichita area absolutely is familiar with this case. Anybody in the state of Kansas, good chance they're familiar with the case. And absolutely, the prison system knew about this guy's case. He was accused of some molestation. So, like I said, it's going to be very controversial. Um, but I'm going to give all my arguments and tell you why I form my opinions. And everybody else is entitled to their own opinions. But I know what I've seen. I know the court documents I've seen. I know the lack of evidence I've seen. And I unfortunately know how Sedgwick County operates. I fell out of Sedgwick County too many time loser to count as far as through the court system. 3-time loser into the prison system, the adult prison system. However, most times I was guilty. In some way, shape, or form. Sometimes not even knowingly guilty, but guilty. Ignorance, the law type thing. But anyway, enough of that. Let me talk about Ormond first, and then I'll get to the second. I have a good friend of mine. His name is Ormond Wimberly. In 1981, a 75-year-old woman was robbed and murdered. And Ormond Wimberly was arrested on this case, charged, and convicted by a jury. I know a lot of you, especially that haven't been through the legal system, is convicted by a jury. Must be guilty. I'm sure there's lies running around about you out in the world, and I guarantee there's probably 12 people you know that would agree about them. So are you guilty of them? Anyway, this woman was a large woman. Ormond, not a large man. He's probably 160, 170, 5'8", 5'9". I don't know. I probably could have looked him up and got his exact measurements, but I don't think it's really relevant. Close is all we need. This one was shot in her car. She was dragged out of the front seat into the back seat of the car, and the car was later found in a shopping center, like Kmart parking lot or something to that matter. Not 100% sure on that. Again, I'm relying off memory, and getting up there in age, that's not always a good thing, but we're going to work on it. Anyway, so when the investigation came about, this whole, obviously, crime scene investigators came in, the car was dusted for prints, her body, her wallet, her belongings, her everything, was dusted for prints. The only thing that connected Ormond to this crime, in the passenger seat floorboard amongst a lot of trash, I've seen the crime scene photos and it's just atrocious, but was a McDonald's receipt. One McDonald's receipt with a 6-point latent print on it belonging to Ormond, matching Ormond. Now, let me clarify this for another thing for you guys that aren't involved in the criminal justice system. You're probably thinking, fingerprint, guilty, man was there. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to tell you now, and I don't remember what the legal specifications are now, but I know it's more than 6 points. Each curvature, each piece of your fingerprint is considered a point. Where it matches in them swirls is a point. We all, as everybody knows, have unique fingerprints. However, parts of our prints can match up. Here lies the problem. Ormond was in the criminal justice system. His prints were registered with the government. He was in the military. There was basically involuntary manslaughter. Ormond was guilty of that. He admits that. It was just a deal. I don't know. I don't remember the whole details of it. Kind of briefly touched on it, but I am definitely. Ormond is very reserved. He is 72-ish. Very old fashioned. Highly educated uh, black man. Really good guy. Always wants to help everybody. Anyway, back to the story. Ormond was in the system, so it pulled up a match. And let me remind you, this case is from 1981. So the technology wasn't as good. Now, Ormond, he had had his troubles in the military. He was dishonorably discharged, went back into society, went back to Topeka, Kansas, got his degree, was like a breathing therapist, radiologist. He worked in the hospital in Topeka. This man also officiated softball and stuff like that, and enjoyed life. Prominent black man, rode a Harley Davidson, had some money, had a wife, a couple children. Good member of his community. Like I said, worked. Anyway, well, this finally came back to Ormond. This print. They arrested him. The crime was in 1981, and I believe it was 1987 or 88 when he was arrested on the crime. By that time, the hospital records, employee records, they didn't hold as far as attendance records longer than 3 years. He couldn't prove he was at work. He was at work that night that happened, but he couldn't prove it. Hospital's records, like I said, they date out in 3 years. It's just terrible. Now, with that alone, just what you've heard, you think, I don't know if the man's innocent. And if that's all I'd heard, I'd probably be in the same mindset. However, let's look at a little more details. The gun was found. The gun got found in Kansas City. It also got tied to a robbery and murder in the Kansas City area. The exact same gun that was used to shoot Ormond Wemberly's alleged victim. Now, remember I told you, Ormond, I worked at the hospital, he does these things like officiate softball, umpire and stuff, and all that. Now, although the hospital did not contain records of attendance for more than 3 years, the softball organization that Ormond officiated a tournament for the weekend the girl was killed in Kansas City did. So now, here is a man that there's another murder with this gun. He's sitting in jail in Topeka. They've already found this gun in Kansas City, linked to another murder and robbery, and he proved he wasn't in the area. I know just that alone isn't going to free somebody. But now let's look at the car, the evidence, the latent print. Picture this, people. To me, it's hard to understand. I mean, and I'm sure the police are going to try to explain away maybe white prints or whatever. But there was no prints found anywhere else on the car, in the car, on the woman, on her purse, on her wallet, where her credit cards and cash was taken out of, or anything. No door handle, not on the steering wheel, not on the ashtray. I don't know, Armando smokes. Probably would have been on the ashtray. But my point is, nowhere in that vehicle, besides this one receipt in a pile of trash. Something's wrong with that picture. Something don't make sense. And I guess I should add into this video innocent people of high profile cases, because that makes a difference. A high profile case makes a difference on your chances of proving your innocence. Trust and believe. As scary as it may sound, it's the truth. So, anyway, it just I don't get it. His size. The man's half the woman's size. And I don't, you know, any of you have ever done any like EMT, firefighter, police, any big training, if you ever lifted body weight, even just 150-pound fire dummy, just throwing them over your back, run up, it's a lot of effort. And someone twice that size, dead weight, whole lot of effort. But anyway, the man is innocent. I mean, he entrusted into me after we'd known each other a couple of years. I was the president of the Excel JCs in El Dorado Correctional Facility here in Kansas for a little over 5 years. Ormond was my chairman of the board. He was the outgoing president. But in that time, we became pretty close. I didn't care for Ormond at first, especially when I ran for president. I thought he was just contentious, just talk down to everybody. I treated everybody like they're stupid, and I was going to change all that. I was going to change the face of JCs. He wasn't well liked a lot of times in prison, especially if you're trying to do the right thing, walk the narrow, straight and narrow path, help other people, make your community better in a legal way. You're not always that popular. And if you're part of any self-help group, whether it's Stop Violence, Reaching Out from Within, Lifers Club, JCs, whatever various organizations they have across the United States and in the world, in prisons, self-help, a lot of times you're labeled. You're the police, you're the rat, you're this or that, whatever. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, another video. But Ormond, me and him used to sit down every weekend in the JC's room. We had our little office in the facility that, it wasn't a very big office, but it wasn't a tiny office either. We had 2 computers, some file cabinets, TVs, DVRs. We were living good for prison, that's for darn sure, because we could go seclude ourselves in this office from the time camp cleared in the morning until time to lock down at night, if we really wanted to. And it was nice. But anyway, on the weekends, me and Ormond would sit in there. We'd do our paperwork. We'd work on chapter business. And sometimes we'd also sit and visit. Because after a while, I learned that Ormond wasn't really contentious. He wasn't really demeaning. He didn't really think you're stupid. He wanted to help. He's extremely intelligent. He just comes across the wrong way. But he means well. But anyway, he finally broke out the evidence in his case. And it's terrible. And now I do remember, now that I'm talking about it, that he had mentioned that he is on one of the episodes, I believe, one of the prison shows or shows about a crime or something like that on Discovery Channel. I'm going to have to look that up. If I look that up, I find it, I'll post a link. I know, because he was talking about it, he said even some officers had seen it and come and said to him, man, you're not guilty, are you? So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's Ormond. And like I said, he's a controversial case too. Even though it was a murder, robbery and murder, it's still a woman, so that's looked down upon. But politically, It's a big case. Every time he comes up for parole, it's all over the newspapers. In Topeka, they have a big deal. He has a one of the officers that was on his case or something that keeps going to his public comments and talking bad, stopping his parole. Uh, and the guy's done 30 something years. This guy does nothing but help people. Extremely religious, loves the Lord, and in his actions you can see he loves the Lord. It's through and through. Uh, but anyway, and they won't let him go because he hasn't had enough write-ups over the years. He don't admit guilt. I mean, he's adamant. He didn't do it. He's not going to admit something he didn't do. Ormon's not one to tell lies, including lies on himself. So there's that. Now, this next gentleman I'm going to talk about is, like I said, it's a very controversial case. Especially the topic, the charges and all that. People tend to be judgmental. If you're on the news accused of something, by God, you're probably guilty in most of the public's eyes. And, sad fact, but it's true. So, anyway, Caleb Gaston. Caleb is about 23 years old, 24 years old. He's around the age of one of my sons. So, this is a story and a person means a little bit, you know. Not only that, I know his older brother Zach, is also incarcerated. So, you know, I've known the family for a little bit. I've known him. I don't know the family real well, but you know, seen him visitation, waves, stuff like that. But anyway, you know, I don't know how to put this as best, but I was in county jail, and I met Caleb a couple years ago when he first come down. I'm not a person to ask people what they did. I'm not a person to ask what they're accused of, why they're there. I don't really care. I judge a person by how they act. I judge a person by their interactions with me. I don't listen to hoopla. I don't listen to naysayers, people, haters that want to hate on certain people or whatever. If I like a person, I like a person. If I don't, I don't. And I don't care what you did, because I believe every person can change and can rise above their mistakes. So, with that being said, in 2018, I ended up in Cedric County Jail, theft case, over 25,000, under 100,000, and I ran into Caleb. Didn't know why Caleb was there. I had been in the Larned Correctional Facility in the minimum security part of the Larned prison for about 13, 14 months. So really didn't watch a lot of news and stuff like that. You know, it's just so negative. If I want negative, I look around the prison. I get negative all day long. I don't need to turn on the TV and get negative too. So anyway, I hadn't heard about the case. I hadn't seen Zach since I had been moved from. In fact, I hadn't seen Zach since I got my minimum custody in September of 2015. So that was. So I was, you know, I didn't know about it. But anyway, I see Caleb. I recognized him. We talked a little bit. And, probably, I don't even think it was an hour later, after I got done talking to Caleb, somebody come over to me and said, "You know who that guy is?" Clearly, I was talking to him. Yeah, I know who he is. And so, you know, I've known his brother for a while, and, you know, I said, "Why?" And he said, "So that's the YMCA child molester. He molested them little girls at the YMCA." And I tell you, being shocked is not even don't even describe what I was feeling at that time. I just disbelief, shock. Uh, anyway, so I went and asked Caleb about it, and I told him. I said, my friend, your brother's my friend. I'm gonna respect whatever, and but I'd like the truth, and look, this kid looked me dead in the eyes, teared up a little bit. He didn't do it, and like I said earlier, I got a pretty good bullcrap detector. Granted, I didn't want to see it as to be true, because I did know this kid. I do know his brother. But you know what? I still don't let that cloud my judgment. If you're a friend of mine, a family member of mine, you know, just because you do something, don't mean I'm going to turn my back on it. I'm going to listen to the truth. But anyway, Caleb said he wasn't guilty. And again, like I said before, a lot of people in prison say they're innocent. But especially those convicted of sex crimes. So I took that with a little bit of grain of salt. But anyway, as me and Caleb talked, he described everything. We talked about it. And I would say at first, I wasn't completely convinced he was innocent, so I wasn't convinced he was guilty. But you know what? That's what the story gave me. He gave me no reason to ever doubt him. He never lied to me. So I let it go. As time goes on and his court proceedings progress, the evidence is produced, or I should say the lack of evidence. I saw more and more stuff that I was just appalled of our legal system, appalled at Sedgwick County's officials in the district attorney's office. It was a high-profile case, as you can imagine. It was all over the newspapers, the television news. It was just everywhere. Social media. That case blew up. Very high profile. Now let me tell you, as I said before when I was talking about Ormond, a high profile case, how much that matters and how much harder that makes it for you to prove your innocence. Because the prosecutor, the state, they don't play fair. They've got toys that we don't get. They can make decisions that we can't make. They can make or break us. Now, I can specifically speak for Mark Bennett in Sedgwick County. His office is tied up in statistics. If you don't believe me, research some articles. You'll come up with some Mark Bennett talking about statistics, especially election time. When did a court of law become about a statistic? Well, I understand you're a prosecutor and conviction rate, should have something to do with it. However, how many of the people that were convicted were innocent? Isn't the court supposed to be about innocent or guilt? I don't know. But anyway, so when you've got a high profile case, the state does everything in their power to push that case forward in the way they want to see it go, including dirty pool. In Caleb's case, and I find it ironic, if you read the papers and see some of the feeds, news feeds and stuff talking about this case, especially around his sentencing, the time of he signed the plea and all that. He was scared into a plea, by the way. the news talks about all these videos they had, evidence and this and that. And, gee, it's funny. There sure was video evidence. However, evidently it didn't show what the prosecution wanted it to. So they filed what you call a motion in limine. Basically, it means shut the hell up. You can't talk about that. When in reality, it's something that needs to be a part of the case. This is something that sets this kid free. This is a kid. He's 23 years old. He's a kid. It's just crazy. But it's a human life we're talking about. So, and this got granted by the judge. For real? There's video evidence. It's not just somebody talking about it, an accusation being made, or nothing like that. There's video. You can't fake that. I mean, you can edit and doctor it, but I mean, it's less likely in a court that's going to be completely doctored. I've seen cases where the video was doctored up, make somebody look bad, and if you played the video in its entirety, that the meaning was different. But it happens. But in this case, they didn't even want the video because it'd show that they made a wrong decision. They arrested an innocent man. Perhaps there was a financial gain that was somebody was seeking. I don't know what the motives were, but I do know this kid's innocent. Like I said, everybody's going to have their opinions. I'm sure I'm going to have some haters off this video, and you know what? I don't care. This is something I feel strongly about, and this is a good kid. Tell you what, I'm a grandpa. My last video, you saw some of my pictures that was behind me. I love my grandkids to death. You know what? Here's how much I think Caleb is innocent. I'd let Caleb watch my grandkids. I don't do that for very many people. I'm very picky on who my grandkids and my nieces, nephews, and little ones are even around. Nevertheless, who watches. But like I said, there's another side to a lot of stories. And we've seen it many, many, many times. And the more that DNA evidence is, the more it progresses, the more they go back and test old DNA, the more people are being exonerated. And they're being released from prison because they were falsely convicted. Ormond Wimberly has well over 30 years in the prison system. Caleb, he's on his third. But he signed a plea for 27 and a half years. Think about it, people. Again, why is the criminal justice system so unjust? Why is the criminal justice system so corrupt? Why do we, as voters, allow these people to stay in office that will falsify, or I guess not even falsify, just block evidence that would prove someone's innocence, that will make something up on somebody? They will try to trump charges. They will try to, it's just, the list goes on and on and on of the dirty politics. You start getting an edge on them, you're doing your own legal work, or even if your attorney's doing your legal work, you got a high profile case in Sedgwick County, you better send that shit home. Don't keep anything that's not that easily prove your case or prove your innocence in your cell, because it just might come up missing in the shakedown, and they won't know what happened to it. It's your word against the cops. Who do you think they're going to believe? Seen it happen. Seen it happen in prison too. Got lawsuits against the prison or whatever, or just a cop that don't like somebody. They're getting progressed in their legal affairs and proven their innocence, or injustice done against them in the court or whatever, the evidence disappears. Anyway, I hope you really got some information out of this today. Again, like I said, this was just, I've been milling in my head since I posted the first video of what to do the next video about. I have just so many ideas that I'm going to have to run with them. But this one I felt important. Like I said, it's near and dear to me. This is important. People need to know there are innocent people sitting behind them prison bars. Sometimes them innocent people are someone that a lot of people are afraid to touch their case. They take a second look. They don't want to go against the grain. By God, you don't want to stand behind somebody that's innocent, because the crime that they're accused of is just so heinous. What would I look like? Well, what do I look like? I look like someone who stands up for justice. I look like someone who stands up for a friend when I know that they're telling the truth. You know what? Naysayers, haters, hate. You know what? Because I'm going to bring content. I'm going to bring the truth. And if the truth hurts, probably not a good channel to watch. Alright, with all that being said, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for spending your time and listening. I encourage you, look up stuff in a couple of these cases. Now I will warn you, try to look for legal facts, not media fiction. If you have the resources and abilities to look up legal documents and stuff like that, do so. The results will surprise you. So, I hope everybody has a great day. It's a little chilly here in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, on a Saturday afternoon. Kind of dreary. Been raining. But you know what? Like I said at the beginning, I'm not in prison. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cap with From the Bars to the Bricks.